diagnosed with spinal neural atrophy at 12 months of age. Her parents were told by numerous specialists that their firstborn child would not walk or crawl and that she was unlikely to reach her teenage years. Kerni will share much of her story here today, but as you can see, she is still here and she has a great many heights in life. She's one of Australia's most successful, well-respected and highly awarded Paralympic swimmers of our time. She was responsible for helping Westpac to raise $1 million and send the full team to the Athens Paralympic Games. Kerni has been showcased in Inside Sports, done some modelling, New Idea, magazines.
A long time ago.
Presenter on radio, etc. and as a TV commentator and presenter. Kerni is currently the National Disability Insurance Scheme Queensland Ambassador. She is a former United Nations Women's Board member. She's a member of the Queensland Premier's Domestic and Family Violence Council. She is the patron of the International Day of People with Disability. She's been awarded the Pride of Australia Medal. Wow, Kerni, how do you find time to sleep? You've intentionally acclaimed and sought after keynote speaker and has delivered a TED talk, that's quite an achievement, which has been watched all around the world. And by telling her story, Kerni demonstrates to everyone who hears her that each and every one of us has a choice in life and that our choices should not be determined by our circumstances. Welcome, Kerni.
Thank you. Greg, and you forgot to say that I was Miss Beach Week 1996. That's my favourite. I'm also a mother to a 2.5-year-old, so I'll put a disclaimer on all my speeches that I don't have much time to sleep, purely because I've got a 2.5-year-old who keeps me awake. Is that your microphone or my microphone?
Sorry, my bad.
That's alright. Okay. You all good now? Ooh, it's a bit weird. Do you reckon you'll hear me? I'm a girl from now. I'm going to turn this off.
Yeah.
What do you reckon? You can hear me?
Yeah.
Alright. If anyone can't hear me, then just raise your hand and I'll keep projecting. Like I said, I'm a girl from Rockhampton, so I can definitely project. Okay. So thank you so much for having me along here this morning. I've heard lots about health enterprises through my work at the NDIS. And as you probably just heard from Greg, with my very exaggerated bio, we all sound great, don't we, in our bios and resumes. Whenever I'm introduced anywhere, people do introduce me like that. They call me a Paralympian, a social worker, a speaker. And because I was born with my muscle wasting disease, or my disability, oftentimes people then call me inspirational and amazing for doing those things because I have a disability. So wherever I go, and this is pretty typical, I would say, I could say that, and I would never ever dare speak on behalf of all my mates in wheelchairs, but I've got a lot of them. I've been a Paralympian for 20 years, and I'm obviously the NDIS ambassador in Queensland, and I'm a clinical social worker, so I've got lots and lots and lots of mates in chairs. So it's fairly typical for us whenever we do anything normal, like go to work, if we're lucky enough, get a job, or go get our coffees in the morning, or go get Vegemite at Coles, or be a mum, go to the pub. I don't get to the pub very often anymore, but if we go to the pub and we happen to go up to the bar and order, I don't know, what do we call rum in Rockhampton? Sugarcane champagne. If we go to order one of them, we often get high fives for doing those very basic, typical things. And I'm often high-fived and called inspirational and amazing for just being out in the year 2019. And I wish I was exaggerating this. I wish there was a time that I could say, look, that doesn't happen anymore, but it still does. And I want to ask, apart from my mates in chairs here today, has anyone been high-fived last week for working? No one? What about living independently away from your parents at 40? Been high-fived for that last week? No. What about a high-five for being a mum? I want to high-five all the mums out there, PS. We all deserve to be high-fived for that. But we are typically and normally high-fived and patted on the head and told that we're amazing for doing those really necessary things, normal, human-like things. Just because we were born, like me, with a card in our hand of cards. I love when they call it a life deck of cards, or whatever you want to call it. I'm a social worker. I know that everyone loves to look back at their childhood. It's one of those things that we always start with as social workers, and we start back at the beginning. So people really love to concentrate on that one card in my deck of cards, which happens to be that I'm in a wheelchair or I have a disability. So as you heard, for Greg, I was born with a muscle wasting disease, and that is just, like I said, a card, or what I call a circumstance or an attribute. Just like I've got brown eyes, I'm 5'2" on a really good day. I'm from Rockhampton, I'm from the big capital of Australia. I have parents, all those normal circumstances, attributes. I just call the fact that I happen to be born with a few missing muscles just part of my deck of cards. Why do I bring that up is because people, it's like they're going to combust and die if they don't find out why I'm in a wheelchair wherever I go. And I can see them coming. I can smell them, in fact. The ones that are really going to want to know. So imagine when you get up in the morning, you get your hair all looking pretty good, you're feeling good about yourself, and you're cruising around Queen Street Mall trying to get to work, and someone comes up to you and says, "What happened to you? What have you done to yourself?" Straight away, it's a bash in the face with a label that I can't seem to ever get rid of. And when that label attaches itself to us people with disabilities, especially the ones of us which we're born with our disabilities, it starts really early. In fact, it starts in utero. So whenever a mummy is pregnant for 9 months, pretty normal, isn't it, to ask that question to a mother-to-be or a father-to-be. What do you want to have? A girl or a boy? And what's the universally accepted response to that question? I don't care as long as our baby is healthy, right? It's so innocent. I was one of those people that said it all the time as well. I've totally got it. I'm godmother 459 times because nobody thought that I could have children. So of course they made me godmother. I'm even godmother to actual dogs. So I'm godmother to lots and lots of children and fur babies, right? Because nobody thought that I could have children. So when I was about 34, 35, and I heard my friends answering that question when they were pregnant, it dawned on me quite devastatingly that I was that unhealthy baby. And what does that mean? So it's really interesting to think about it, that when you're pregnant, it'd be really weird if you said, "I don't care as long as my baby is a girl." Right? It'd be weird, because then someone would say, "You can't say that."
Yeah.
Because it's a 50% chance, man, that's weird. You can't say that. People don't say that, because it's a weird thing to say. Because you can't control it, right? So we get that as humans. But isn't it interesting that you got a 20% chance, 20% of having an unhealthy baby. So what does an unhealthy baby look like? So what they talk about in the medical world is 10 fingers, 10 toes, 2 arms, 2 legs, all that fun stuff that you're supposed to have. I'm missing a couple of glutes, scaps, whatever you need to put your arms above your head, and hamstrings. So I'm just missing a few muscles, right? So that means I'm deemed unhealthy and had a disability right from the start. So all the medical professionals told my darling parents that their firstborn child had this neuromuscular wasting disease, that she wouldn't walk, she wouldn't crawl, and she wouldn't live past her teenage years. And the toughest part about that diagnosis for my parents, they've told me many times, and I get it now, I totally get it now that I'm a mum myself, is that these doctors told my parents to make me as comfortable as possible, as exercise will only make this condition worse. Whatever you do, don't do any rehab with her. So I'm very fortunate that I believe I'm up here today. I'm healthy. I drink lots of green juice. One of those really annoying, gluten-free, organic people. I can't stand that people call us unhealthy. It's a label that is one of the many labels I'm going to talk about today, that is one of the many reasons why we can't get employment, is because we're deemed unhealthy. I still walk. I only use this contraption for longer distances and for good parking. And It's obvious I'm just out of my teenage years, I'm 40, because I was born into a family that celebrated me right from when I arrived onto Earth. They celebrated me and they decided to start me on what I lovingly call a crazy rehab program. Why do I call it crazy? Because everybody with those degrees, some of my parents from Rockhampton without degrees, don't do it. So how do they do it? All by themselves in the 70s with no doctors around them and no physios around them and no NDIS and no support. Well, they found this. They found this standing frame from the local Rockhampton-based hospital. Anyone here from Rockhampton, the beef capital of Australia? I don't believe that. I will meet one of you today who will come up to me and say, I'm actually from Rockhampton, but I was too embarrassed to say that I was. Mum and Dad found this in the local Rockhampton-based hospital, so as you probably know, as parents or people that have been around 2-year-olds, it's really hard to strap a 2-year-old into anything. Now that I'm a social worker, I also know it's kind of illegal. But the reason my parents used this is because up until this moment, I didn't move. So I didn't reach any milestones, and now that I'm a mum, I get the whole obsession with milestones. I wish I wasn't one of those mothers, but I am. So I didn't roll and reach or rattle, I didn't sit up, I didn't crawl. So when Mum found this, she thought, great, this will get her up and start using all those muscles at the back of her body that don't work. So Mum and Dad tried everything to keep me in this thing, for longer than 5 minutes. Nothing worked. So Dad, who's a typical bloke from Rockhampton, he didn't say much. He just took this contraption out to the backyard shed. Didn't tell us what he was doing in the backyard shed. Do we care? Women, do we care what men are doing in the backyard shed? No. So after 6, 7, 8 days, Dad came back into the house, very excitedly. Well, as excited as a father from Rockhampton can get, with this. As you can see, I'm looking very, very happy. You put flowers on it, bless it. So on this contraption, this torturous contraption, my mother actually pushed me around the neighbourhood for 6 hours a day, every single day. Now, not only did my mother look absolutely fabulous after 6 hours of exercise every day, luckily for me, it worked. And I walked at the age of 3.5. Now, this to my parents was definitely their best day, their greatest day. If you ever get to meet my parents, Terry and Jeff Liddell, they will not bore you with stories about my Paralympic achievements and world records and medals but they will bore you with this story. The day that I took my first steps. They tell it at every family gathering. In fact, half of Rockhampton has claimed to have been in the lounge room the day of this. But the reason why this was their greatest day is very simply because they became parents. Now here's the thing that I've discovered, and this didn't take a master's of social work to figure it out, or maybe it did. It probably took a master's of just living 40 years with a disability, or being around humans. And this is what I've learnt about parents of children with disabilities, is that they live so heavily in the future. They're so future obsessed. If you ask a mother of an able-bodied child that's 3 about that child's university life, they'll think you're crazy. Or where's your child going to live when she leaves home? Mothers of able-bodied children, when they're 3, they don't think about that, right? Mothers of 3-year-old children with disabilities are obsessed with it. What's going to happen? Is she going to be able to go to school? Is she going to be able to go to high school? What's going to happen when I die? Is she going to be able to go to university? Who's going to marry her? Where's she going to live? They're so future obsessed, and they have to be. Because Australia is one of the worst countries in the Western world for employment for people with disabilities. One of the worst. We're 23 out of 29 OECD nations when it comes to employment of people with a disability. So on this day when I started to walk, Mum and Dad breathed a sigh of relief and thought, hang on a minute. If the kid can walk, and she can crawl,
Maybe she can work.
maybe she can just go to school. Maybe they could just be present focused with their kid, because that's the next natural step, right? Is to start going to school when you're at that age. So, once I figured out that exercise actually worked, guess what happened to me? I became the fittest 3-year-old in Rockhampton. They tried everything from swimming, and guess what else they tried? Horse riding at Rockhampton, riding for the disabled. Every Sunday I went along to Rockhampton riding for the disabled, and I rode horses purely for rehab reasons for my whole life. My whole childhood I was on horseback. I love showing this photo because that is my father in his hot 80s white rugby league hair. If you go to Rockhampton any Sunday, you will see every male in Rockhampton mowing the lawn in a pair of white rugby league pants, which are also very see-through. So apart from the fact my dad's wearing these really see-through pants, as you can see, what am I doing? I'm sitting up on a horse by myself. Another milestone. If she can sit up on a horse by herself, if she can walk, all of a sudden, my life started to look like a life that would be filled with happiness. So when I was pregnant with my little Bubba Kai, and people would ask me what I wanted to have, a boy or a girl, I said all I want to have is a happy child. And I got one. Because I've met lots and lots of people with glutes, hamstrings, scaps, arms, legs, toes, fingers, and are miserable. So all I wanted to have was a happy child. And I was a happy child, and Mum and Dad enrolled this happy child into a mainstream school in the 80s. Now this was quite rare in the 80s. We've got a long way to go when it comes to inclusion, integration, whatever the buzzword is now, into mainstream schools. But back in the 80s, especially in the beef capital of Australia, people like me just didn't easily go along to mainstream schools. So my mother, who's a very persistent woman, it's a really nice word for it, fought for me to go along to St Anthony's Primary School in Rockhampton. Of course, she won, and I went along to school. Now when I do walk, like I said, I still walk now, I walk with a pretty obvious limp. I think the medical community called it a gait. I call it swagger. It gets better with a couple of vodkas. You can't drink vodka in grade 1, so to try and keep up with all the other kids in the playground was very challenging. But I knew no different. So whenever a teacher would say, who wants to play any kind of sport, I was always the first kid to put up my hand to play anything. Softball, netball, basketball, I played everything. And every time I tried to compete against those able-bodied kids, I came home with lots and lots of these. Nobody wakes up the morning of the sporting carnival and thinks, geez, I hope I win the good try ribbon today. I hope I win the orange one. So I won lots of these, and the poor darling teachers that are scared of Kerni Liddel used to very carefully come over to me and say, look, Kerni, what about you be the scorer? What about the assistant coach? Anything to try and steer me off the fact that all I wanted to do was be GK on the netball team. Now you can probably imagine of all positions in sport to play, and you can't lift your arm, stand, GK wasn't the best position for me to play. So my mother figured out pretty quickly, a kid with a muscle disease likes to play sport. What are we going to do? So miraculously, my mother found a disabled sporting competition in Brisbane. It was run by Sporting Willies and Disabled Association, which I'm still heavily involved with today. I still train there twice a week. Mum and Dad flew me down in the big plane, you know, big city, big first real race at the age of 8. The 25 metres freestyle event. Now, as you can imagine, I'm sure you've been around 8-year-old kids, so you probably know this, right? You tell an 8-year-old kid they can do anything, like, I don't know, climb Mount Everest. or swim 25 metres freestyle, and you're the adult telling them that, they believe you. So when my mother told me that we're in Brisbane, we're at this competition, I've entered you in the 25 metres freestyle event, I of course believed my mother, the adult, that I could in fact make 25 metres freestyle. I just thought my mother was being really cool and supportive by wearing her tops. So she knew that I definitely could not make 25 minutes freestyle. She hadn't thought that really through. My mother and I are very similar. In fact, we're very details challenged. I call details a muscle. I must be missing it. My mother is also missing it. She got on that plane. She's like all the way down there. And I went, well, she could probably make 10 metres. What's the worst thing that can happen? It's a lifeguard. I've got my togs on. So she crossed her fingers. She crossed her legs. I hope the lifeguard would jump in if anything should go wrong. Or she was ready. But luckily for all of us, I made the very, very long 25 metres freestyle in 4 minutes and 56 seconds. And came out with one of these. Went back to show and tell, had it, of course, pinned to my chest for a week, took it back to show and tell, showed all the kids my magical blue ribbon. Sat my parents down in a very official type meeting at the age of 8. And I said to my parents in our sunken lounge room, very accessible sunken lounge rooms were in the 80s. I said to Mum and Dad, with my blue ribbon still stuck to my chest, Mum and Dad, I figured it out. I figured out what I'm going to do with my life. I'm going to be a swimmer. I'm going to be an Olympian. Didn't say Paralympian, never heard about it. It was the 80s, none of us had. In fact, disabled sport weren't 2 words, they went together in the 80s. So when I told my parents this crazy, ridiculous dream, which is no longer crazy and ridiculous, right? For kids with physical disabilities to want to be Paralympians. In fact, it is fully included and integrated. In fact, they're paid. They're paid. I'm really happy for them that they're paid. Really, really, really happy for them. But when I told my parents this crazy, ridiculous dream, they agreed with me. They just nodded their heads. Now, when I told my parents, it's obvious, Mum and Dad, look at me. I've got the blue ribbon. I've swum it in 4 minutes and 56 seconds. It's obvious. I am good. That's swimming. Now, I don't know if you guys can see this well, but what colour is the ribbon that is being handed to Todd Burmester? Blue! So luckily, at the age of 8, when I told my parents that I was good, I didn't realise that every single disabled kid got the exact same blue ribbon. It doesn't matter. Did you know what happened to me on that day? I made a choice. And that's the strongest card in anyone's deck of cards. I also grabbed myself my own label. I didn't know that I wasn't good. Luckily, I actually became good. I swam it a lot faster in the end. But at that time in my life, I wasn't good. I wasn't good at swimming. I had no idea that every other kid got the same blue ribbon. But it was the first time in my 8 years that I felt good at something. And I'm yet to meet a human that isn't good at something. I grabbed myself my own label. I picked out the choice card. But the most important thing that happened that day is I found myself a head nodder. And I found it in my lounge room. So when you combine all those elements together, the head nodder, your own label, you find something you're good at, you're off. And then I started to become good at swimming. This is my brother. I've got a brother, Brent. Brent, as you can see, is 6'4". He is definitely born with all the right cards to be the athlete in the family. Why do I say athlete in the family? Because I've got a father who's an amazing athlete, represents Australia at 2 different sports. He still competes at 65. My brother absolutely hated sport. In fact, he did that triathlon that my dad is very illegally running beside me because I couldn't get up the hills on the triathlon course. You need glutes to get up hills, just so you know. My brother did that exact same triathlon, but he quit after the swim leg because he thought he was going to die. So luckily for me, when I found that head nod, I started to represent Australia and compete all over the world at the age of 14. Went to 3 Paralympic Games and kept on meeting Paralympians that showed me time and time again that our choices in life should never be determined by those cards that we were dealt, that we had absolutely no control over. Our choices in our life should never be determined by our circumstances. I was not born to be a swimmer. I was not born to be an athlete. But all I ever wanted to do was be a Paralympic athlete. When I was retiring from sport at the ripe old age of 25, I was very fortunate to learn a lesson, this is where I'll end today, that I brought into the next phase of my life. And the next phase of your life, when you're a Paralympian or Olympian, it's such a challenging time because you spend your whole life trying to get those tangible objects, those medals, and then you kind of think that that's it, right? I'll never have to work another day in my life, that's it. But you're 25, so you have to have other chapters. So as I was trying to grapple with what I was going to do for the rest of my life with these tangible objects that I'd won, I was fortunate enough to be asked to speak at a medical convention. And I was asked to speak there because I just was the team captain of Sydney 2000. We won the Sydney 2000 Paralympic Games. My life was pretty outrageous at that time of my life. I was asked to speak at many different things. And at this particular conference, it was going to be like 5,000 doctors, social workers and specialists and physios, and my mother really persistently and annoyingly wanted to come to this speech. I thought that was strange. You don't say no to Kerni Liddel from Rockhampton. So I said, of course you can come along, Mum, but I don't want to see you. When I'm on stage, Mum, I do not want to see you in the crowd. So I'm up on stage doing my speech. There was 5,000 people in the crowd. And as I was zooming around the audience, I just happened to see a man. Wasn't Chris Hemsworth, unfortunately. It was a doctor that had diagnosed me. The doctor that I definitely didn't think I'd recognise because I was so young, but I did. And when I saw him on stage, I knew exactly why my mum so desperately wanted to come along to this particular speech. Because this was a doctor that sent my parents along to a place called Montrose Home when I was about 4. And we think he thought the best thing to do to stop Kerni Liddel from calling every Tuesday, so she did, would be to show her what this muscle disease looks like, and then she'd stop calling and asking silly questions about rehab, hope, school, swimming, Paralympics. So when I saw him on stage that day, I could not stop staring at him. For the entire 30 minutes, it was just me and him. Now there's nothing worse than being in a crowd when the speaker locks eyes on you, right? I know I'm beating you, right? I know there's nothing worse, but I couldn't stop staring at him. So he was uncomfortable, I was really uncomfortable. The 5,000 other people were just absolutely bamboozled with what the hell is going on here. So at the end of my speech, I thought, I haven't finished yet with him. I want to go and chat to him. Because this was the darkest day of my parents' life. And I only heard about it through the media. Mum and Dad never told me about it. But they told Uncle Ray Martin about it in my documentary that was done about me in the year 2000. And my dad called it the hardest and worst day of his life when he walked into Montrose Home. and saw children that were ventilated and couldn't do anything by themselves. So I thought I'm finished with this man. So I put my wheelchair onto level 2, which is dangerous. I've never done it before. It's electric, this wheelchair, I'm not actually that strong. So I put it on level 2, so I thought this guy's going to leave. He's at the worst 30 minutes of his life, he's going to go. But he didn't, he was actually coming over to me. Pale, sweating. As he was coming this way, yes, he was coming that way. Terry Liddel followed by Jeff Liddell running. So I knew I had 30 seconds, right? To deliver the best speech of my life to him. I was pretty good at 30 seconds. I won a few medals at 30 seconds for one lap. So I was ready to unleash the Rockhampton beast, and as I was about to, he just threw a folder at me. It was a manila folder, a beige folder. Anyone, I'm sure most of you understand what a beige folder is. It's a medical folder. Had a name on it. Mine are always pretty thick. So, it was pretty thick. He threw it at me, landed on my lap, and as I opened it up, I was speechless for the first time in my life. As I looked down to my lap, there were hundreds and hundreds of press clippings of me and my Paralympic career. Media clippings, Sydney Morning Herald, Inside Sport, he had them of course, Inside Sport. And all I could muster up to say to him on that day was, why on heaven's earth do you have all these press clippings of me? And he said to me that day, your mother has been sending me bloody press clippings. Children with disabilities are still fighting for the basics. On that day, my mother taught me a lesson which I need to be reminded every day, because I'm the NDIS ambassador for Queensland, which is like, I've been involved now for 10 years at the NDIA. I was involved with the rallies way back when, around the country. I ran them. I'm responsible for 97,000 Queenslanders who hopefully will sign up to the NDIS. I also sit on the Domestic and Public Violence Implementation Council. I represent females with a disability. Dame Quentin Bryce put me on that. So I feel quite overwhelmed with a lot of responsibility for my two favourite groups in the country, females and people with disabilities. Why do I bring that up? Because every single day that I do those jobs, I'm very aware of these facts. And my mum taught me a lesson that day that I think about and remember every single day, that I am completely disgusted and overwhelmed with these facts. And the reason I come along to places like this today is because I've already got an army of hope givers. They're all sitting around here. I know them all. This guy over here, I think I've seen you at every single speech I've given for the NDIS. There's already a bunch of hope givers around here already. But I'm looking for an army of them. And whenever you feel overwhelmed with these stats, remember this. My mother sat in her lounge room with a pen, an envelope, a stamp, and a pair of scissors. And she didn't tell anyone. Didn't Instagram it, didn't ring the morning bulletin, didn't even tell my father or her best friend. She sat there in her lounge room, put those press clippings into envelopes. She didn't even know at that stage if I was going to live. She definitely didn't know that I'd become one of the best swimmers in the world. She definitely didn't know that I would actually be employable. It took me a long time to get here at 5,000 degrees to be employable. Unfortunately, us people with disabilities are usually the most educated people in any room. She didn't know that I'd be happy. She certainly didn't know that I'd make her a grandmother. But she put those envelopes together, put a stamp on them and put them in the post, having no idea what would happen. And my mother taught me that the smallest of acts can create the largest of impacts. My mother, Terry Liddel, changed the way that we diagnose neuromuscular wasting diseases in this country. So whenever you feel overwhelmed with this, today was not a small act. Getting on that bus was not a small act. Not every kid with a disability has a Terry and Jeff Liddell in their life, but you could be them. you could be the Terry Liddel in the lives of all those kids out there that aren't as bloody lucky as I've been. Thank you so much.
The tour you just had, what have you experienced? And what part especially touched you, do you think?